Example number 1. So the demand function for a certain brand of CD is given by this. Now you guys, I don't even know if you know what a CD is, but anyway, it's a little bit old school here, but we can still work with it. So this is our demand function. Let's go ahead and make this d of x. This is d of x, all right? It tells us that P is the unit price in dollars, and X is the quantity demanded each week, measured in units of 1,000. I better highlight that. Measured in units of 1,000, always watch your units. Determine the consumer surplus if the market price is set at $5 per disc. Okay, so what that means is, what this is telling us is that P bar is going to be equal to 5. All right? How in the world are we going to determine what X bar is equal to? Well, we have to set up an equation and then solve that equation for X. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that now. Here is the equation I'm talking about. So using substitution, we're going to replace this P with 5. And we now have a quadratic equation in which we can solve for X. This doesn't look that much fun, but nevertheless, we can still do it. So I'm noticing that this is 100th. It's actually negative 100th. I'm going to get rid of my decimals by multiplying both sides by 100. And so if I do that, actually let's make it negative 100, because you know I like to have my leading coefficient positive. So with that being said, what do we get? We get negative 500 equal to what? X squared plus 20x minus 800. Now I'm going to set this thing equal to 0. So I'm going to add 500 to both sides. I'm now adding 500 to both sides. That's going to give me this. And now we can hopefully factor. If you can't factor, you can always use the ever popular quadratic formula. But I believe this one is factorable. Let's see, x plus 30 and then x minus 10. All right. And so what we actually get here, therefore, x is equal to what? A negative 30 and a positive 10. Here's the deal. Whichever one, let's just make this as simple as possible. Whatever one's negative is not going to represent your X bar. That doesn't make any sense. All right, that's not going to be the quantity demanded. Okay, it has to be a positive value. So this is implying that X bar is equal to 10. All right. So now we know what P bar is equal to. We know what X bar is equal to. Let's go ahead and set up our consumer surplus model and answer the question. All right, so consumer surplus then will be equal to what? Well, it's going to be equal to this definite integral. From what? The lower limit of integration is always 0. The upper limit is always X bar, which we just determined to be 10. What are we integrating? We're integrating the demand function, d of x. So that's going to be this. And we're integrating this with respect to x. And then what are we going to do? We have to subtract off really the area of the rectangle being created by what? X bar times P bar. So here's your X bar times your P bar. And at this point, we're going to use our calculator to determine this. Since it's application, I'll go ahead and let you use your calculator. So in other words, the work that you're seeing here is the work I expect to see when you have this type of question on your next test. Okay? Let's look at this now using our calculator. All right, let's see how to enter in this consumer surplus model into our TI-84. First thing I'm going to do is hit math, the math button right there. Then I'm going to go all the way down where it says F-int. All right, that's the integral of a function, by the way. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And this is nice. Look at this. So limits of integration, 0. Enter. Well, that didn't work. Jeez. Oh, well, you don't hit enter. Come on. Think about what you're doing. So you go, just use the arrows here, folks. No problem. Use the arrows until you get it to the upper limit of integration cell. Make that 10. Right arrow over. And then you're going to enter in the demand function, which is what? Negative 0.01. And that's times x squared. And then minus 0.2x. And then plus 8. And this is going to be with respect to x. And now what you're going to do is minus what? 10 times 5 or 50, whatever. Hit enter. And then we're going to write this. We're going to write this down on our paper at this point in time. All right, so again, my calculator came up with this result, but then I'm not finished yet. Remember what it said in the question. It said that X is the quantity demanded each week, and it's measured in units of 1,000, which means you have to multiply this by 1,000. So you're going to take this number, multiply it by 1,000, and end up with what? The consumer surplus, therefore, is approximately $16,666, and let's round to the nearest cent. So that'd be 67 cents. All right. So again, what is this? This amount is really representative of what the consumers would have been willing to pay, okay, for the X bar units of whatever the commodity is, as compared to what they actually paid for that commodity. Consumer surplus.